The No BS Spiritual Book Club, the only no BS guide to the best spiritual books to inspire your own journey of self-discovery. Here's your host, founder of the No BS Spiritual Book Club, Sandie Sedgbeer.
And welcome back to the No BS Spiritual Book Club's live video series. And I'm very excited about tonight's episode because joining me to share the stories behind the 10 books that influenced him the most on his life journey is investigative journalist, former war correspondent, founder of the Institute for Research on Extraordinary Experiences in France, and author of 2 really good books, The Test, Incredible Proof of the Afterlife, and one that I've made my bookworm this month because I love this book. When I Was Someone Else, The Incredible True Story of Past Life Connection, which we're going to hear more about later on. And our guest is Stéphane Allix. So Stéphane, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for writing such a great book.
Oh, thank you very much. I mean, I'm very moved by what you say. It's a great honor for me to be with you.
I have to read so many books for the radio interviews, you know, that sometimes I want to hurry my way through them. Yours was just, I mean, it just gripped me all the way. So it was a very easy read for me. So thank you for making that a bit easier. And I really look forward to doing a full-length interview with you in a few weeks' time for the radio show. But for now, what we're going to do is we're going to focus on your 10 best spiritual book list. And then after that, we will get to your own story, which is quite phenomenal. So first of all, let me ask you, what was it like for you to have to choose just 10, or should I say 11, because you slipped in an 11th book out of all the many on that wall behind you?
Yes. All my books are not here. There is some other place. Oh, you know, of course it's difficult because I love to read and I read for many years, but on the meantime, the key book, I mean, there are not so much key book in one's life. And of course, I put 11, I could have go to 15 or maybe 20, but 10 was not so difficult to identify very quickly.
Okay, so it wasn't a difficult, you know, some people have said, oh goodness, I had to go back and reread them all just to make sure that I'd got the right 10.
Yeah. No, it was not the case. I mean, they are in my mind still, and they are inspiring me every day, nearly, because I'm journalist. So I dedicate my entire time to research, to investigation on consciousness and spirituality. So the book I mentioned to you are a very important book in my path, and they play a very key role in the years that passed. So it was easy for me to identify it.
Were you an avid reader from childhood?
Yeah. My father was a teacher. He was also a painter, but he taught me how to read. And I remember him reading loudly Flaubert or Proust or Stendhal. And it taught me how books could be also musical and how good writing is also, first of all, good music. And yeah, it taught me how to love books and stories. And I'm reading every day since nearly 40 years.
Yeah. Well, you know, I speak to an awful lot of people about books, and you are the first person who's ever said that books are like music. And I tell all my clients, you know, you've got to look at the rhythm of it, you know, is so important. And a lot of people forget that.
It's a lesson I really kept from my father, because when I started being journalist, I didn't went to school. I mean, I quit school very early and I went on the field. I escaped in Afghanistan that was occupied by the Soviet troop at the time to become journalist. And I was 19, but I didn't have any press card. I didn't have any diploma. I didn't have anything. And when I came back, I needed to learn how to write an article. I didn't know what it was to write an article. And instead of trying to explaining me methodology, my father read me Flaubert loudly, for instance. And he said, if you want to say to share an idea, to share something, to share an atmosphere of a field or a place, you need to be, you need to be musical. So my father correct my first article about Afghanistan war, reading me Flaubert, and I still remember this today.
Yeah, it's very important. So, you know, a writer is a composer too. Yeah. So let's start with your first book, which is one that, you know, we get books by this author, not this particular one, but his most famous one. We've had this one a couple of times. It's Still Here, Embracing Aging, Changing and Dying by Ram Dass. And I'm curious, most people who love Ram Dass always go for Be Here Now. Why did you pick this one?
Maybe I guess because it's the first one I read. When I was working on death and afterlife, I came across this book. I didn't know this author, and I discovered him at the time. And I discovered Ram Dass more recently through his work on psychedelic, through his amazing life, starting before Harvard to psychedelic research to India, and really I love this man. You know, I am interested in spirituality, and I'm working in this field since now 15 years, and it's very rare to find someone who is 100% what he's writing. Usually, you find people who wrote beautiful things about how to live, how to do in your life. And you discover when you meet them that they have many problems, like many human beings have problems. So for me, it's very important to find people who are what they are writing, who work on themselves. Because you can be a very nice person, you can write very nice things, very spiritual and inspiring things. But if you are not living this thing, someday in your life, something is going wrong. For instance, like, you know, the sexual scandal we have since Me Too, it's also concerned, touched the spiritual realm. So you can see Sogyal Rinpoche, for instance. This is a great man. He published a wonderful book, Tibetan Book of Life and Death, but he was also trapped in some sexual scandal. So why that? Why such a person with such a spiritual knowledge is not able to control himself? Because there is something wrong. And I think Ram Dass is someone who always faced in his life what was inside of him. He was homosexual. He had to deal with this homosexuality in a time in the US where it was not easy at all to do that. He never escaped the paradox of his life, as far as I know. He never escaped any shadow that was coming out of himself. And it drives him to end his life in a perfect way. And I want to follow such example in my life. So for me, Ram Dass is in my heart every day. I never meet him. I never had the chance of meeting him. I went to Hawaii my first time a couple of months before he died, but I didn't know he was there at the time. And even though maybe he had something else to do than meeting a French journalist, but even though I never met him, he's in my heart. I don't know why I say that, but he's such a great person.
He definitely embodies everything that he teaches. And it's interesting what you said about how there are many spiritual teachers, gurus, etc., who have been accused, you know, who knows whether they're guilty of it or not, but, you know, have been accused of, you know, things that they should not have been doing. People seem to put them on a pedestal. And I don't really know where to go with that one because, you know, they're human too. And all humans have their frailties. You know, we can aspire to live a very clean and healthy life, but, you know, not everyone does it all the time. I did hear somebody once say that the lesson we have to learn is not to judge them for the things that they did wrong. You know, we need to understand that it's the message and not the messenger that we need to pay attention to. The messenger is always going to be human.
I understand what you mean, but I think the messenger needs to work on himself first. For me, it's very important. The messenger doesn't need to be perfect to teach, but he needs to be aware of what he is made of. Yes. I'm also thinking of Mahatma Gandhi, who did such an amazing work, but he was aware of his tension, his sexual attraction, his fighting since he was very young. He had the difficulty to deal with this energy, but he always faced it. He always recognized it, and I think recognizing who you are doesn't help you to be immediately just by magic a better person, but it helps you to be coherent and to be truthful. And this is for me the most important thing.
Yeah,
otherwise you are just a slave of some hidden personality inside of you.
Yeah. We're all going to have issues of some kind. It's how we deal with that and how we either hide it away from people or are honest about it. And, you know, we're all learning.
Yeah.
So book number 2, The Way of the Shaman by Michael Harner, the classic, absolute classic of shamanic work.
I like his approach because I am a journalist, and so basically I'm trying to work on fact, on data, each time I am addressing a new topic. And on each subject that I work on, like life after death, shamanism, all this kind of spiritual knowledge, you have to differentiate the core truth from the cultural addition. And it's exactly what did Michael Harner, working to identify what he called the core shamanism. You just move away what are just cultural belief. Cultural belief are different depending on where you are looking, but the core is still the same, no matter you are in Amazonia or in Mongolia or whatever. And I really like this kind of approach because for me, it's a very, very rational approach. And we need, if we want to consider the spiritual reality of our world, if we want to consider it at this importance, we need to have this rational view of it, because it's very rational to be interested and to be working on spirituality. It's not because it's spirituality that it's something not scientific or woo-woo or whatever. It's a serious topic, and it's worth to work seriously on it. And people like Michael Harner or many others are doing this very, very priceless work to help us to consider differently this reality. Shamanism is a reality. We can access the spiritual world. We can have a connection with spirit realm. It's proven. And work of Michael Harner and his institute help us to work more seriously on this topic. I don't know if I'm very clear. I'm sorry for the viewer. I'm sometimes a little bit lost with my English, so I hope you will forgive me.
Oh, I'm sure people will forgive you. When did you read this book? And was it this book that inspired you to do your own, to have your own experiences, shaman experiences and psychedelics, etc.?
No, I read it after, because I discovered shamanism in a very strange time when I was investigating life after death again, and I was trying to see if there was some similarity in between different knowledge. But instead of reading books, I was more willing to experience it myself. And I had a friend of mine who told me about Amazonian shamanism with ayahuasca. And they explained to me that ayahuasca was a brew that could help you to go in the spirit realm. So I didn't know anything at the time. So I just bought plane ticket and I went to Peru in the Amazonian forest and I tried, and it was, quite tough. But after those experiences, I wanted to learn more about what was shamanism, what was those spiritual plant, ayahuasca, and other techniques. And this is when I discovered Michael Arner and some other researcher on this field.
Mm. We'll hear more about your shamanic experiences later. So book number 3, In Love with the World. Now, there's different ways of pronouncing the name of the author. Yongey Mingyur Rinpoche?
I guess it's correct, yes. Yeah.
So there's two books out there. One has a subtitle, A Monk's Journey Through the Bardos of Living and Dying, and the other version has What a Monk Can Teach You About Living from Nearly Dying.
Mm. The book I have is In Love with the World, yes. I discovered this book totally by chance when I was in an airport somewhere waiting for a plane in the US. And I love the cover because on the cover of my book is the picture of Mingyur Rinpoche is from the side, and he had long hair and a beard. He looked like a homeless guy. And I was very surprised because normally he's a very high-ranking Rinpoche with a shaved head and normally very clean with his dress. And I discovered the book was about his secret escape from his monastery. And I found a fascinating story. This guy is a young Rinpoche. He's in charge of hundreds and hundreds of monks and monastery. So he doesn't have a lot of time for himself because he had to deal with nearly 1,000 of followers. But at the time of his life, what he's telling in his book, he discovered that maybe the spiritual path would require to come back to the essence of the teaching. But in his position, it was very hard to come back to this teaching. So he decided to escape his monastery, and he planned for many months in advance. And one night, without telling anyone, he escaped the monastery and he started wandering in India. He took a train. He never took a train. Normally in his life, everybody around him take care of him. So he doesn't have any money. He doesn't know how to pay things. He doesn't know to buy a train ticket. And he was obliged to do that. And I don't want to tell the entire book, but again, like Ramdas or like Arner, I like this kind of honesty. I like this coherency. I like when you take a risk of being yourself, really, when you go out of the box. And for a Tibetan Rinpoche, it's very comfortable to stay in the box because you have a lot of money, you have a lot of people who love you. People tell you you are wonderful 100 times a day, and you can eat a lot of sugar and become a fat monk. And it's quite easy. And I don't know a lot of very high-ranking Rinpoche who do such a thing, just to come back to the spiritual teaching they receive as a kid. So, and the book is wonderful because, of course, Yongey Mingyur Rinpoche is going through a lot of complication and difficulties because he never faced that. And he's explaining his own journey while explaining also the Bardo. Bardo is not only the life after death. The Bardo is everything that is changing in your life. Everything is a Bardo. Bardo, it means in Tibetan, the in-between state. So we always are in in-between state. Now we are in between the beginning of our interview and the end of the interview. We are in a transitory state. So every transitory state we are going through confront us to emotion, to very different psychological state. And this is what the Bardo doll is about, exploring the emotional state you are going through in all intermediary state of your life. So this book is both a very funny journey writing book, and also a spiritual teaching, but a spiritual from the ground, not from the etheric realm, but from the ground. How the Bardo doll can help you when you don't have money, when you are lost in India, when you have diarrhea, and when you are about to die because you don't know what to do. So I really recommend this book.
How long did he travel for, and was he able to go back at the end of it? Did he want to go back?
I don't want to say that because it's like to tell the end of a novel. So I don't want to answer your question. But he's going very far because it's not only to go away for a week or so. He really wants to go back to the authenticity of the first time of the spiritual hermit of Buddhism. So it's a long time, and it's a long journey.
Okay. Book number 4, Journey to Ixtlan, The Lessons of Don Juan by Carlos Castaneda.
It's I think I read all Castaneda's book, and I love the uncertainty with those books. We know that Castaneda was a real person. We know that he was a student of Michael Harner. We know that he studied anthropology, but after that, it became a mystery. We don't know if Don Juan is a real person. We don't know if 20, 40, 50, 60% of the book are real or not, but it's a teaching. It's a teaching, and you take what you want to take for yourself. It doesn't have to be read as an investigation or read as a real anthropology study. It's an invitation, and I think this book and the other of Carlos Castaneda play a great role for spreading the magic of shamanism through the US and through all the world at a time it was needed. Sometimes you need to write very serious book like Michael Harner did. Sometimes you need to write more mysterious book to not to talk to the head of the reader, but to his heart. And I think it's what Castaneda did.
Yeah. And it's interesting how many people have done something similar since. You know, you've got like Celestine Prophecy. You've got other books, Mutant Message from Down Under, where we don't know whether it was real or not, but it is the metaphors in that story.
Exactly, yes.
That counts, yeah. And you say the same thing about book number 5, which is Autobiography of a Yogi, which has to be the book that comes up most often on people's lists of 10 best books.
Yes. It's the Castaneda from India.
Yeah, exactly.
When I read it, I was fascinated by what I read about the yogi of India, the people who can do so amazing things. But I also heard such a story because I'm traveling to India since 30 years. And I came across a story like that of a yogi or a sadhu doing amazing things, disappearing, reappearing. And I know India, it's a place where you can meet this kind of magic in a daily life. So I really read Yogananda like I read Castaneda, just entering it 100% without being journalist, trying to figure out if it's real or not. I wanted, maybe 10 years ago, I really wanted to go in India to do an investigation on this book. I wanted to find a place, to find a guy. But you know, I also remember when Ramdas is writing about his guru, Nim Karoli Baba, this guy was doing when Ramdas met him the first time, Nem Karoli Baba told Ramdas what he was thinking about the night before, because before arriving to the monastery of his guru, Ramdas was thinking under the sky during a night, and he was thinking about his mother who passed away a couple of months before, and he was very sad and he was thinking of her. The next day, he arrived in this ashram of Nem Karoli Baba without having meeting him and without having tell about this thought of his mother to anyone. And suddenly the Nem Karoli Baba looked at him and told him about his mother and about his thought of last night under the sky. So I knew this kind of power, which is called Siddhi in Hinduism, are a reality. The researcher Dean Radin wrote a book a couple of years ago called Real Magic, yes, where he's comparing the Siddhi tradition of India and Hinduism to the research on parapsychology. So it's a reality. People can know yourself. People can read in your mind. People may have access to all the information of the world. It can be done through a spiritual practice like Yogananda or like Nem Karoli Baba or like many, many other wise men in India, men and women, of course. So I don't know where are the limits. I mean, and I'm not sure there is limit to those kind of power. Today, I consider, like what Yogananda said, and many of such a person are saying, is that those power are not the objective of a spiritual practice. It just come when you are just going when you are on the path. The more you are cleaning yourself, the more you are becoming a good person, the more connection to the entire world you have, the more capacity you have to be other person in another place, and so and so. But I'm still willing to travel to India to investigate that, because it's both spiritual and investigation story to write.
Yeah, it truly is an amazing book. Amazing. And it would be very interesting to know if indeed you could know. I actually met somebody at the Self-Realization Fellowship in Los Angeles who was supposed to have been a great nephew or something or other of Yogananda. Now, I don't know whether, somebody like if his story is true, would be able to tell you anything at all about his antecedent, but I doubt if there are many people left who can.
Sorry, I didn't understand you.
I doubt that there are many people left who could tell you much about Yogananda himself as a person firsthand. Yeah,
but I think there is still a lot of Yogananda in India.
You think?
Oh yeah. So and maybe someplace else, and it would be interesting to travel to India today and to try to meet those persons. It
would be interesting to do a documentary on it.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so book number 6 is The Way of the Psychonaut Encyclopedia for Inner Journeys, Volume 1, Volume 2, Stanislav Grof. And that one was published fairly recently.
Yeah, it's a kind of legacy of Stan Grof.
Yeah.
Stan wrote many books, and he had a long life of research and writing and exploration. And I think this man is not yet recognized as the importance he has in the psychology field, because today we put Freud and Jung on a very high level, but the Stan Grof explore much more realm of our personal and transpersonal psychology, and I had the chance of meeting him and inviting him in Paris several times, and I visit him in San Francisco also, and he's He's an amazing person. He's an amazing person because he had what I admire, both a spiritual openness and a spiritual and academic background. Mm-hmm. And he never quit one for the other. He always worked with the two. And it's what's really important for me in the West, both in Europe and the US. We are born in a not spontaneously very spiritual country, especially in Europe. But we have science, we have Cartesianism, and it's not to throw away. I mean, it's useful to explore the world and to question the reality with those tools. And people like Stan Grof, he used the tool of psychology, psychiatry to explore so deeply those realms of different realm of consciousness. And again, his work is priceless. And the way of the psychonaut is for me the synthesis of his work on psychedelic, on holotropic breathwork, on all the field he explored since the 50s.
Somebody I would have liked to have met, for sure. Book number 7, LSD and the Mind of the Universe, Diamonds from Heaven, by Christopher Basch, with a foreword by Irvin Laszlo. Another very interesting guy.
It is. I had a chance. It's Ken Ring, the psychologist who do the research on near-death experience, who yes. told me about Chris Basch. And I read the book, and it's really amazing because this person who is teaching philosophy decided to explore by himself the higher dose of LSD. You have different doses for LSD session, and when you go on a very higher dose, it really send you to, you don't know where. And what is very difficult when you go to those experiences, when you induce those experiences with LSD, but when you have those experiences spontaneously doing a near-death experience, for instance, or any other ecstatic experience you may have, either induced or accidental, all people come back saying, wow, it was so mind-blowing, but I don't find any words to tell you what I've been through. And Chris Basch did. In his book, he's describing 73 very high-dose LSD session he did in 20 years' time. And I never read anywhere else such detailed description of this overwhelming realm he's going through. It's interesting because he's going beyond our personality, beyond our space and time reality. He's going probably where we are going when we died. And his description is amazingly precise, amazingly detailed, and I hardly read books like this.
Wow, yeah. I'm just looking at my notes here, and the notes that you made. He's a philosopher, he's a professor of religious studies. Wow. What made him decide to focus on this area?
Me or him?
Him.
Oh, I think, I don't know, because I read the book a couple of years ago. I don't remember, but I think he started being interested in LSD and psychedelic like many, many people at the time in the 60s, 70s. And it's really a shame that psychedelic went to a ban like that. And I'm very, very happy that a lot of research are done today, and probably in psychotherapy, for instance, it will be legal very soon in some state in the US and hopefully in Europe also. But I think an entire generation, I remember when I was doing interview of people who start their interest in consciousness during the 70s, when I ask them, what drive you to this field? They always answer LSD or psilocybin, because psychedelic is a very powerful tool to shut down your mental mind, to say it very quickly, and to open you to the transpersonal realm and to the spiritual realm. It needs to be guided. It could be dangerous if you do it alone. You should not be alone. You shouldn't do it alone. I mean, anyway, it's forbidden. And it's good to, it's good to do it with people who know already the place you are going to visit, like the shaman, for instance, in Amazonia. But when you do it in such a good condition, it could be priceless in a psychotherapy, for instance, but also for your own spiritual exploration. And it's what Chris Page is sharing in his book, his own spiritual exploration. And he's doing it with a sense of the detail that it's so amazing that really, I really advise strongly to people who are listening to read this book.
It's interesting how much research is being done today with psychedelics and people who have terminal illnesses, as well as people who have mental health issues, especially depression and anxiety, and they're finding it works really well.
Yeah, and the very interesting thing is that when you are, for instance, when you have depression, the actual medicine advise you to take 1 pill every day, or maybe 2 pills every day of anti-depression medicine. But with psychedelic, you need only to take once. MDMA, for instance, you take 1 pill, 1 session, you had the very profound session, and you may access to the real sources of why you are so depressed, what's going wrong, what is wrong. I remember one thing that really impresses me. The first time I discovered ayahuasca, I was in Amazonia, in Peru, on a shamanic center, and I meet this young lady. She was French, and when we started discussing, she told me that she was afraid of death, but it was for her impossible to live with this fear, because she was so afraid of death that every day of her life she was nearly panicking that she could die, or she could sleep and die during her sleep. She was totally freaked out by his death every day. She took ayahuasca once, and during the ceremony, she went out of her body, and she discovered that she was still observing, still alive, while out of herself, out of her identity. And the fear of the death just disappeared like that, because she realized that it was possible to live, not anymore being the identity you see in the mirror every morning. This is just flesh. This is just bone. This is not you. But we forget that. We forget because we live in a society that helps us to forget that every day. So psychedelic, but many other techniques like meditation or other legal technique can help you to calm down this mental brain that makes you believe you are only this. And when you realize that, then you realize you're a spiritual being, and you can live beyond space and time. And this is big.
Yeah. You've done ayahuasca. Have you taken LSD?
Yeah, also in not in France because it's forbidden, but I took it, yes.
What is the difference? I mean, is there a different kind of experience that seems to be applicable to the different kinds of psychedelics?
Oh, yeah. Yes. It's a long story. I don't know. The substance are different. LSD was created in 1938 by Albert Hofmann. It's a chemical substance that is recreated from a mushroom on I don't know the term in English, but basically it's artificial. Mm-hmm. It's not, you don't, when you take LSD, you don't feel physical impact of it. It's very smooth, and you immediately go in a very subtle realm of it. I mean, it's different to describe because it's very different depending who you are. But with ayahuasca, it's not only the DMT, which is the psychedelic substance in it, that is activated. It's a spirit. It's a spiritual plant.
Yes. And
really, when you take it, you realize that there is much more than just the DMT. Because when you take DMT, chemical DMT, for instance, it's very different from when you take ayahuasca. And ayahuasca also is a plant that is cleaning you in some way, cleaning your mind, cleaning your body. So you vomit, your body is crushed. It's sometimes it's physically very, very painful. It's anyway, all psychedelic are quite difficult experience because basically your ego die. So your ego doesn't want to die. So when you start dying, I mean, when your ego start dying, he is panicking. So when your ego is panicking, you are panicking. So it's a very complicated experience. I can talk hours about that, but I'm not sure it's the objective of this interview today. But the psychedelic I mean, I would advise people who are interested in that to visit the MAPS website. MAPS. MAPS is a non-profit organization who is working very, very efficiently to promote research and psychedelic research. And they are doing a very, very wonderful work, and they need support. So please visit the website, map.org, MAPS.org.
Okay. The next book is a twist on what we've just been discussing, the title of it, which is Transcending Madness. And I'm not quite sure how you pronounce this name.
Chogyam Trungpa.
Okay, I'll let you pronounce it. And the subtitle, again, The Experience of the Six Bardos. So what are the six bardos?
The six different major intermediary states we are going through during our life and death. I am a little balanced with Chogyam Trungpa today because this man was a very high Rinpoche, born in Tibet. He escaped in India. And in the 70s, he moved from India to Great Britain and then to the US, where he opened a lot of spiritual center. His teaching was very, very amazingly powerful because he was able to translate this very, very tough spiritual Buddhist tradition to the West. And he was able to help young people in the US in the 70s to understand the importance of those teachings. So I really admire Trungpa for his work, and especially Transcending Madness. It's an interpretation of what the Bardo could be on a psychological point of view. And it's a very, very interesting book. I have a little concern about Trungpa because his personal behavior was sometimes kind of bizarre. And he was drinking a lot of alcohol while he was giving teaching. He had also a lot of sexual affair with some of his students. I understand that it could be seen, and some of his students say it was part of his spiritual teaching. I'm not very comfortable with that explanation because it's easy to say, and I think this guy was having also some some energy, and he was not very comfortable dealing with it. So I still have a lot of respect for his teaching and his writing, but I'm a little bit uncomfortable with his behavior, to say the least.
You know, and you have a personal story attached to this, because you discovered this book in your brother's room and realized after your brother had been killed that he had been reading this book too.
I discovered it first in Dharamsala in India, in a little bookstore, and I really was amazed by the modernity of the writing about the different bardo after death. And yes, as you said, when I came back in France, it was 5 or 6 years after my brother died in a car accident. I was in his room, and suddenly I discovered that he had read his book, and he was very interested in my brother died in Afghanistan in a car accident. We were the three of us, the three brothers in Afghanistan, working at this time. And we had a car accident one morning, and the 4 people in the car were killed. One of them was my brother. And Thomas he died when he was 30, but he always was interested in spirituality. He went to Tibet many times. He traveled in India. He was searching. And, you know, I think maybe one part of his soul inside of him knew he was to die very quickly and very early. So it's the reason why he didn't waste his time at school or trying to find a job, or he just traveled all he can, all over India, all over Tibet and Asia, trying to find the spiritual answer he was seeking. And yeah, after he died, I discovered that we share a lot of reading, and we didn't share it when he was alive. It's a shame.
Yeah. Book number 9, Passport to the Cosmos, Human Transformation and Alien Encounters by John E. Mack. Yeah,
I don't know if you know his name, this man, John Mack. I don't know if the viewer are knowing this man, but this John Mack play a key role in my life because there are very rare people who have a academic credential that high, and on the same time are taking the risk of telling what they're believing. And John Mack basically was a Harvard psychiatrist. He was teaching psychiatry at Harvard Medical School, and he was interested in consciousness research, but on a very academical way. And on the early 90s, he came across the story of people who say they've been abducted by alien. So at first, he really didn't want to go into that. He said, this is nonsense. I don't want to waste time with it. But a friend of his insisted and said, you should meet one of those abductees at least. And he was curious, and he was an honest man. So he decided to meet first a patient. And after the meeting, he was very upset because he was not able to identify any rational explanation about what he just heard. He had in front of him a person who said he have had experience of being abducted by aliens in a spaceship and so and so. But John, after this interview, meet another man, a third person, a fourth person, and eventually he interviewed tens of people who had such experience. And he was obliged to recognize it was impossible to explain such experience by fantasy, psychosis, or any mental illness we may identify. Those people, he said to me, was telling stories like a person is telling a real story. It's not possible, but I cannot explain it saying they are lying or they are dreaming or they are mentally ill. So I met him in 2003 because I was doing a documentary series for the French television on life in the universe. We know today that probably life didn't appear on Earth just like that. It appears because there was a piece of elementary particle all over the universe. And as soon as you have a planet stable enough, I mean, not too far from the sun, not too close, on a very regular orbit, the situation of life development can appear in very quick period of time. So I was doing a documentary with astrophysicists and normal scientists on life in the universe. And I just wanted to investigate UFO. At the time, I believe UFO was just a stupid subject. It was a kind of mythology. But to be honest, I needed to read a couple of books about it. So I read a couple of books about UFO, and to my amazement, I discovered that the topic was serious, and there was a very serious person who was working on it. We have a space center in France who had the office working especially on witness of UFO since '77. So yeah, I discovered that a lot of cases could be explained by normal phenomenon, but an important percentage of case could not be explained by any conventional way. So it really increased my curiosity, and I started working weeks and then months on the topic of UFO. And then from UFO, I came across abduction, people who said they are abducted by people, little people. And it's the way I discovered work of John Mack. And at the time, he had published the first book called Abduction, who was a bestseller in the US. And again, I was very impressed by the personality of John Mack. It was not an investigator who started being interested in UFO. He was a psychiatrist. He was the founder of the psychiatric department of Harvard University. I mean, he was a Pulitzer Prize winner. He was such a guy that you don't find in those kind of field if they are not serious. So I decided I needed to meet him, absolutely. So I fly to the US. He was living in Boston, in Cambridge, Mass. And I met him in Maine, where he was participating in a lecture, a weekend lecture. And I spent the most mind-blowing weeks of my life, because after the weekend, I drove him back to Cambridge, and he invited me to stay in his house. And there I interview him, and I also interview some of the abductees he was working with. And you know, probably some of the people who are listening to us now had such experience. Sometimes someone you know perfectly well suddenly tell you an amazing story. Like I've seen a UFO, or like I saw a ghost, or whatever, something that is totally extraordinary. Someone you cannot doubt of the honesty. Suddenly, this person tell you something impossible. You cannot escape at this moment. Because if you meet someone in your office or in the street telling you, oh, I saw a UFO, you can still believe, oh, I don't know, this guy is crazy, or there might be such an explanation. But if suddenly your father, your mother, your son telling you such a story, you don't have choice. You're obliged to believe it, because you know that person. You know that person is not crazy. You know that person is not lying to you. So it's really the position I was when I stayed to this house, to the John Mack house, meeting those experiencers. I knew those persons were not crazy. I knew those persons were not making it up. They were not dreaming at the time of the experience. They were not inventing it. So from this moment, it was in September 2003, from this moment, I really decided if I wanted to be a serious journalist, I should not dismiss all of this testimony. I am strong and intelligent enough to do my investigation afterward, to work on any topic. But when I am in front of someone who is telling me an impossible story, it's not because it's impossible that it's not true. And this sentence is still in my mind today. It's not because it's impossible that it's not true. And we should listen to all the story that people around us are telling with this sentence in mind, because it's very important. Because millions of people are going through any kind of experience, and we don't believe them, but we are millions to live such experience.
Yeah.
No one is talking to each other.
Yes, absolutely. I was looking him up earlier because I'd heard of the book, but I didn't know much about his work. And one of the things that he says is that this phenomenon is part of a new era in consciousness, a time in which we must be willing to embrace the idea that alien visitation is real on some level, and that it's a cosmic wake-up call that we live in a world filled with spirits and beings who can cross the barrier we've made between the material and the immaterial worlds. And, yes, anybody could read that and say, yeah, I have to keep an open mind.
Mm. It's very important because, I think we are, as a human being, we're of course intelligent, but we have also a very, very, very narrow view of the reality. It's not spiritual leader who said that, it's science itself. Science tells us we don't know reality. We don't have access to it. We cannot embrace it by your rational knowledge. Quantum physics challenge the reality much more than alien abduction does. So we need to address that we don't know so much about what we are in, and we need to be very humble regarding the reality.
Yes, exactly. Not so arrogant as to believe
Yes.
that we know it all. Well, book number 10 is the Tibetan Book of the Dead, and it's a particular version edited by Graham Coleman with Thupten Jinpa, with a forward by the Dalai Lama. What was it about this particular edition?
Oh, because basically the Tibetan Book of the Dead is a collection of different sacred texts. The first have been discovered in the 8th century and rediscovered in the 13th century. So basically it could be difficult to read for a non-Buddhist and a non-scholar. So the interpretation and the explanation around the text are very important. And I found this book, and Thupten Lingpa is the translator of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, is very familiar with the good way to translate those Tibetan very deep and profound teaching to the West, and Coleman also. So I haven't read all the different translation of the Tibetan Book of the Dead, of course, but this one I discovered it in Dharamsala, and I had such a pleasure to read it and to understand the different. This text is amazing because it's describing so precisely what's happening before you die. That maybe we can think that what is describing after we died is also accurate. And it's not describing a world, it's describing the mechanic of our mind, the mechanic of our psychology facing a new reality. So it needs to be like what Michael Arnold did with shamanism. You need to take out the cultural background and to try to find the core of the text. And the core of the Tibetan Book of the Dead, I think, is really present in this edition of the book. I don't know if I'm very clear on that.
And yes, you are. And as you mentioned about one of the other books earlier, that I think it was one of the books on the Bardo, that, this knowledge, this information can also help you when there is transition of any kind, change in your life, change in house, change in job, etc. Yeah.
We always change in our life. And like Ramdas said, we need to love the change. Yeah. If we start to resist to change, life is becoming hell. So why are we afraid of any change in our life? It's because it challenges the little balance we have built. It challenges who we think we are. So the Tibetan Book of the Death help us to, of course, after death, but it also helps us today in our daily life to identify the resistance within us. Why such a situation is so frightening? Why are we so afraid of changing little habit in our life? And it helps to identify that what is afraid in us, it's just a part of us, the ego part, which is useful to live in this world, but it's not us. It's not 100% us. So it really helps to differentiate the different self, this kind of book.
Yes, absolutely. It's and I think one of the reasons we're so afraid of change is because it challenges our belief that we are in control.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So normally I don't allow an 11th, but this time I'm going to, because it is a book that I think deserves another explanation for people, another little piece of promotion. And it is One Mind, How Our Individual Mind is Part of a Greater Consciousness and Why It Matters by Larry Dossey, whose work I'm also a great fan of. So tell us what about this book impressed you so?
Again, because I think this book is a good balance in between the medical knowledge and the scientific knowledge and the spiritual knowledge. And Larry Dossey is an explorer of those realms since many decennies, and he is also a medical doctor. So he knows what he's talking about when he's talking about brain activity, about the body chemistry and biology. And, sometimes in spiritual teaching, we hear that after we died, we go back to the oneness. We go back to, we are not anymore our individuality, we are going back to the great one, the great all. But I don't know what it is, the great all, because when I contacted my father through Medium, for instance, I talked to my father, I didn't talk to a great one. So I'm always a little bit missing pieces when I try to figure out what's happening after death, what's happening when we are escaping this body and this time, because this body is just the shell we are in this time and space. And in the book of Larry Dossey, I find many answers. Because he's addressing the different scientific discipline where you can observe what's happening when your self and your body is dissolving and when you are entering this spiritual realm. It's a very big book, but very clear book. It's well written. I'm sorry, I don't know how to describe. There's so many entry in this book, so many information and things. But for me, it's the first time I really had the feeling of understanding what it means, this oneness,
yes,
with a scientific term and scientific view of it.
Yes, I must say that's always been a question in my mind, because, if we are absorbed into the oneness, then how is it that people can speak to individuals on the other side?
Yeah.
And individuals that have been passed for many years.
I don't have, I have only my own answer. And my answer is that I think we are evolving during our life today on Earth. We are changing. Your conception of life today is not the same that the one you had maybe 10 or 20 years ago. And I think when we die, it's still evolving also, but it's evolving in we are a different person. We are a soul we are not anymore embedded in this body, in this identity, but we are still an identity. We are still someone. We are still some point in space that is looking and observing. And I think, but we cannot conceive it now when we are talking, but I think the evolution is going toward this probably oneness, but it's not direct. I mean, it's not up, we died, and then suddenly we are just in the one. We died, we are still, I mean, when I will die, I will still be a part of Stéphane Allix. I will still be having my memory from this life. Maybe I will recover memory from other life. Maybe I will be different, of course, but I will still be someone or some observer. And it's only after a long evolution that probably I will get rid of all this identity and finally reach what we call probably enlightenment. But I have a long way before that. Yeah. As you and as probably people who listen to us now.
So, Stéphane, I want to talk now about your own books. And maybe someday that they will appear on somebody else's 10 best list of spiritual books. They're certainly on my current 10 best. You've had an incredible experience. And for me, what made your second book, When I Was Someone Else, the incredible true story of past life connection, so impactful was the wealth of evidence that you were able to uncover. This is not something, you know, there have been other books that have investigated past life stories and they've been able to verify certain information, places, people, etc. But yours, to me, seems to stand head and shoulders above them. Tell us a little bit about this story. What happened?
I was not looking for this. It's a couple of years ago, I had a lot of activity in France. I had a TV program, a documentary program. I had my institute, I was writing books. So I needed to have a break because my spiritual path is also to recognize that sometimes you need to do a break and you need to take the risk of changing everything if you need to do it. So for me to do break is better to do it on a shamanic atmosphere, because I find in shamanism a good way to really calm my mind and try to find myself again. So I managed myself to fly to Peru, to Amazonia, to have a couple of weeks break without any phone call, without any email, without anything. And really, I note in my diary, I am going there to meet myself. It was and I think when you really ask deeply the universe, if you listen, the universe is answering and is helping you. And after a week or so of a retreat, I was in a little house in the forest, in the Amazonian forest. Some people were bringing me food every day. I had nothing to do except some physical exercise like Tai Chi and meditation, and that's all. And one day, after my physical exercise, I wanted to do a shamanic journey, but without ayahuasca, without any substance, just with the drumming sound of a drum. So I lay down on my little bed. I put the earset on my ear and I play the drumming, which makes dum 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 dum, and it helps the brain waves to dissociate and it helps to travel. So I close my eyes and I let my imagination go, and suddenly I imagine myself. I was flying. I see myself as a bird, so I fly, and I was flying over the place I was staying there in Amazonia. So I saw the forest, I saw my little house from above, I saw the river by, but it was my imagination at this moment. I was convinced it was this. And I was not sleeping at all, I was conscious. And suddenly which was a little bit surprising for me. The landscape changed, it became white, and I saw a little dot on the ground, black dot, like man. So I decided to go down to see what it was. And when I was arriving on the ground, it was not anymore the forest, it was a battlefield. It was soldiers. I instantly knew it was German soldiers during World War II. And those soldiers were SS soldiers. And one of them was in front of me, and I instantly knew he was, his name was Alexander, and he was Obersturmführer, which is a grade in the military of the SS. I mean, when I say I instantly knew, it's my imagination who was bringing me that. I was, my eyes closed, and it's like a daydreaming. I was letting my imagination creating all this. And, but I was surprised by the intensity and the emotion, because it was very, very emotional. And this Alexander was looking at me. I mean, I had my eyes closed, but I was seeing Alexander looking at me. And he was looking at me, he was staring at me in a very strange way. And suddenly I saw a shrapnel hitting him on the neck and killing him on the spot. Suddenly blood flow and he fall down on the ground. I was quite in shock. And the scene, the same scene of his death, repeat itself 1, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. He was standing at me, staring at me, and then suddenly was hit and fall down. And it was so intense and so unexpected that I think in my mind, okay, his name is Alexander, but Alexander what? And suddenly I saw an identity card again in my vision with written on it, Hermann. So it was Alexander Hermann, Obersturmführer. And the drumming track was a 30-minute track. So I just let it go, and the visions keep on continuing. At one point, there was another scene where I saw this man in a civilian clothes with another man, with a little girl, also a little girl, maybe 2 or 3 years old. And the entire scene was very intense and emotionally unexpected. I was very surprised because everything was unexpected. And after 30 minutes, the track stopped and the sound stopped. So I stood up and I immediately wrote all the detail of this vision. And really, honestly, at this moment, I said to my mind, okay, this is amazing. This is powerful. This is unexpected. What does it mean? But at this moment, I didn't think at all it could be something else than just my imagination creating something, because I was in a therapeutic retreat. So, you know, in this therapeutic retreat, you have dreams, you have many things that are coming up, and okay. So I just note it like that and leave it aside. And when I came back in France, I decided to Google, because I'm still a journalist. So I Googled the name, Alexander Hermann, Obersturmführer. And after maybe 15 or 20 minutes of research, I find a list that seems to be a list of SS officers during the World War II. For some reason, it was listed in Poland. I don't know why it was in Poland. And I find the name. I find one Alexander Hermann, Obersturmführer. And I didn't know what to do with this. And my first reaction was to think it was a coincidence. Because as you may have understood, even though I'm interested in spirituality, I'm still very rational as a journalist. So for me, it was a coincidence. For instance, if I ask you now to just make in your mind one German name, you will probably say Gunther Trück, and we may find a name like that by coincidence in the list. So I so much thought it was a coincidence that I just leave it. And I had a book to write. I had my life to go on. So it takes me more than 1 year doing nothing with that before starting again my research. And I don't know why I started again this research. I don't know why one day I Googled again the name Alexander Hermann Obersturmführer. And I went a little bit further and I identified quite quickly a historian, French historian. So I called him. I don't know why I call him, but to my, I was lucky because I had a TV show in France. So this man knew me from the TV show, and he knew I was a serious journalist. So when I told him on the phone, last year I was in Peru and I had a dream of German soldiers by his name, he didn't laugh and hung up. He listened to me, and his first advice was to tell me, you know, for officer in Nazi Germany at the time, we may have a file, a military file. All the file have been kept at the archive in Berlin, but there is a copy that have been bring to the Washington archive. So he gave me an email of a French researcher who was at the time at Washington to do research, historical research. And after a couple of hours, this man answered to me and said, yes, I found a file from this Obersturmführer Alexander Hermann. So it took a couple of days for him to copy the microfilm, and he sent me 78 pages of a file, all the life of this Alexander Hermann, where he was born, where he was stationed, in which battalion he was soldiers, and blah, blah, blah. But I don't speak German, so it was very hard for me to try to understand what material I had, but I tried to Google Translate the page after page. But fortunately, I also sent the file to the historian, and very late that night, the historian sent me back a short email telling me, okay, I read mostly the file, and so this Alexander Hermann was born in this city. He was in the SS, in the Waffen-SS, in this battalion, and blah, blah, blah. And he died in Russia on October 20, 1941. Killed by a shrapnel on the neck. When I read that, I try to identify the death certificate in the file, and I found it, and I read the German term attached to the cause of death. I Google translate it to make sure, and yeah, it was written black on white that this man was killed by a shrapnel on the neck. And at this moment, it was like I was having a truck rolling on me. I don't know if it's a French expression, but at this very moment, it was for me impossible anymore to believe it was a coincidence. The name, the surname, the rank in the army, the age, because I knew he was 25 when he died in my vision, and then the cause of death. I saw this vision of him being hit by a shrapnel so clearly. It was so clear. So from that moment, it was March 23rd, I decided to dedicate 100% of my time to try to understand why I had this vision, what was the link with me, what I had to do with this man, because I didn't understand. At first, I had the thought of maybe since I was on a shamanic retreat, it makes you more sensitive. So maybe a part of me became kind of psychic, and I get information from a ghost. But as I was thinking that, what would a German ghost would wandering deep in Amazonian forest, 15,000 miles from the battlefield? And in the day that follows, I start to think that it could be my past life, to make short. Not because I'm very familiar with the Nazi, but I'm basically the opposite of those kind of guy. But I start to identify a lot of similarity in between what I've been through in my life and what could have been his. So I decided to investigate and to try to find more information. For instance, this little girl that I saw is his daughter. Is there a way for me to find her if she's still alive? Because he died in 41, so she could be still alive. So from this moment, I start to figure out how I could investigate in Germany. And I also decided very quickly that I should go in Russia, in a very remote area of Russia where he died, on the October 20 the next year. And I did. And it's all this investigation that I'm telling in the book. Yeah.
I want to say a couple of things here, because obviously we're not going to give the whole book away, but there were so many synchronicities that occurred during your research that just, it was as if someone was laying out clues in front of you. There was you talk in the book about having always been fascinated by what makes somebody attracted to violence. You abhor violence, and yet you had this thing, you wanted to understand, you know, what it was about violence. And through your research, you actually did come to an understanding. You come to an understanding about this man. You know, it's such a phenomenal book, and there are so many pieces of real photographic evidence, and the story as it unfolds is just incredible. I would highly recommend that everybody read it. But the question that I want to ask you, and then I'm going to throw it open to anyone else in case they've got questions for you about anything that you've said tonight, is you said that you thought it might have been a past life. The book is titled When I Was Someone Else, and yet you don't truly think that that was a past life. What do you think it was?
Oh, it's not that I don't believe it's a past life. It's I am always a little bit reluctant to say it was my past life, because I can prove this. I mean, this is unprovable. You can prove that Mr. B killed Mr. A when you find the dead body, when you find the weapon, when you find everything. But in this matter of spiritual realm, I have a lot of evidence that there is a link in between him and me. There is a large amount of evidence that I was holding his legacy in some way. Not his belief system, not his racism, not his ideology, but his regret, his guilt, his shame, probably. So how come the unfinished business of this guy came inside me? I don't know. It's maybe what we call past life. But, you know, I also observe, working on consciousness, that when we died, we go out of time. Time is not reality anymore. So it means on a soul level, we are out of time. So today, I born in 1968, and he died 23 years before I born, on this planet, on this timeline. But on the spiritual realm, it's hard to reduce it to this logical. I mean, you see what I mean. But I think it's what we can call past life. But I cannot honestly say 100% this is it. It's 99%. I'm convinced 99% that there is this such a link in between us. But you know, this. I think if we want to understand more deeply what is life, what is consciousness, we need not to stop on what we believe we understood. We still need to be open to what we don't understand. And it's what I'm trying to write in this book, what I don't understand, what is still open. Okay, we can be sure of certain amount of evidence, but what's left? Ununderstandable. And it's there what I think it's worth to investigate and to keep on working. So in this book, I'm trying to describe the nature of the link I have with this man, what I'm holding from his legacy, why, what's happening when I find his grave, what's happening if I may find this little girl, what's happening when I'm walking in the street where he was living when he was a kid, what's happening inside me. And day after day, I'm trying to describe the more precisely this journey, this investigation. And it's not, I don't like to go to conclusion. It's the reader who have to make his own conclusion with my material I'm presenting to him. I mean, I'm still a journalist, even though it's a story that happening to me.
So how did this experience and the completion of this experience change you?
It decreased a lot of confusion inside me. You know, I think no matter who you are, when you're born and when you've grown up in this planet, there is a lot of things that are contributing to your confusion. Confusion is not because we are stupid or we have been wounded by life or whatever. Confusion is just the nature of our reality today. We are confused because we are living on this planet. And we are confused also because we have an unconscious realm, and we have a lot of things we are not conscious of. The history of our family trees, and probably the history of our past life, if I want to make it simple. All this history, all this legacy is in us. And sometimes we do things in our life we don't understand why. We choose a direction we don't know why. We choose a job, we choose a woman or a man to be our wife or a husband. We don't know why. We choose a job, we don't know why. Sometimes we know why 70%, but we don't know why 100%. And I think the meaning of spirituality and the meaning of life, it's to decrease this confusion, trying to understand more and more why we are doing this and why we are acting in such a way. Because it helps us to be less slave of unconscious pattern. So in discovering this link I had with this Alexander Herman, discovering what I was holding from him helps me to realize that this violence, this fascination I had for war, what drove me to go in Afghanistan when I was 19 to join the Mujahideen, I understand it was not me. It was a part of the legacy of this man who died and who lived in a very, very bad way during World War II. In a sense, I had maybe the task of healing this part inside of me to heal him. This is my interpretation after, but it helps me to be more aware of who I am. And it's not over. I'm still searching and I'm still investigating, but I think this is a wonderful advantage of life, this life we have to take care of ourselves. You know, it's not selfish to do that. In taking care of ourselves, we take care of the world, because we are the part of the world we know the most, the better. So in taking care of ourselves, in trying to become a better person, less confused person, we help the world to be a less confused world.
I think you're absolutely right. I just want to ask you quickly, what are you reading right now that's exciting you?
I won't be very original, but I just wrote the biography of Ram Dass, Being Ram Dass, who just came out a couple of weeks ago. I love so much this man. So I read this book, and what else? No, yeah, basically this is the book I wrote a couple of weeks ago, and it's still here.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your 10 best spiritual books with us. And thank you for sharing a little bit of the story behind When I Was Someone Else. If anybody is interested in knowing more, get the book, but also you can listen to my upcoming interview with Stéphane, which will happen in a few weeks. And we'll be able to get deeper into the story and some of the details then. Stéphane Allix, where can people get in touch with you if they want to? You don't seem to have a website.
No, it's in French. You can write me through INREES.com, INREES.com. It's the website of my institute. It's only in French, sorry, but there is a contact formula where you can contact me directly.
Stéphane Allix, thank you. It's been a pleasure to speak with you tonight.
Me too. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And thank you at home for joining us. And if you want to be the first to be notified of these events or to see the videos, don't forget you can join the No BS Spiritual Book Club's private Facebook group or visit the video at the nobsspiritualbookclub.com. And you can also listen to this as a podcast on Spotify, iTunes, Anchor, and many other podcast sites in the coming weeks. That's it for today. I look forward to seeing you at the same time next week. Till then, bye-bye, everyone.
If today's conversation sparked your curiosity, you'll love our other shows. The Synergy Sessions, where leading-edge thinkers collide in bold, unscripted dialogues that ignite new possibilities between realms and reason, where we journey into the mysterious consciousness, energy, and the hidden layers of reality, where science converges with spirit in ways you've never imagined. And the No BS Spiritual Book Club, where leading-edge new thought speakers, teachers, authors, and luminaries who've walked this path before you share the 10 books that had the biggest impact on their life journey. All 3 shows are available on YouTube, Spotify, Substack, and all major podcast platforms. For more information, visit sedgbeer.com. That's SEDGBEER.com.